Why is it always you who suffers the most? Why do the battles keep finding you? What if I told you it's not a curse? What if the pain you're running from is actually the proof that you're being built for something most men will never touch? Pain doesn't pick the weak. It chooses the worthy. This is the hard truth most people aren't ready for. Pain isn't random. It's not some cruel joke. It's a signal, a spotlight, a direct hit from life that says, you've got more inside you and I'm not letting you rot in comfort. The weak get left alone because they're not a threat. They're not on any path worth testing. They're too soft to be shaped. But when you're getting hit, when life keeps throwing fire at you, it's because something in you has the potential to carry greatness. And that greatness doesn't come without a price. Look around. The strongest men you've ever seen didn't walk easy paths. They were betrayed, broken, doubted, mocked, hated. And through all of it, they kept moving. Why? Because pain picked them. Life looked them in the eye and said, you're next. But only if you can survive this level. And that level came with fire, with pressure, with silence, with isolation. But they didn't fold, and because of that, they got access to a level of power that comfort can never give. Every battle you face is shaping the warrior you need to become. Every late night with tears in your eyes, every fake friend that vanished, every plan that collapsed, all of it is a tool, a forge, a furnace. You're not being broken, you're being built. But the problem is, most people don't want to be warriors. They want ease, they want comfort, they want applause without scars. That's why they'll never become more than what they already are. See, a warrior isn't born in safety. He's born in survival. He's born in chaos. He's born in the moment where quitting feels easier than breathing. But he keeps going. That's what makes you different. That's why it's always you. Because you've been marked. Not by luck, not by chance, but by force. Something inside you is meant to rise. But the only way it rises is through resistance. So next time you ask, why me? Remember, because you were never meant to be average. Because the battles you're facing are too heavy for weak men to carry. Because this pain, this pressure, this chaos, it's not punishment, it's preparation. And the world doesn't prepare nobodies. It only prepares the ones it's planning to elevate. The question isn't why always me. The real question is, what beast is being built inside me that requires this level of pain to activate? You ever wonder why your life feels like a battlefield while everyone else seems at peace? Why the pain, the pressure, the setbacks always find you? What if I told you the enemy isn't the world? It's the mindset you've allowed to live inside you. Victim mindset is the first chain you must break. It's poison. It sounds like a whisper at first. Why is this happening to me? Why does life keep knocking me down? And if you feed that voice even once, it grows. It starts controlling your outlook. It wraps itself around your thinking. Suddenly everything becomes someone else's fault. Your failures, not your responsibility. Your weakness, just bad luck. But here's the truth. No one will tell you. No one's coming to save you. No one owes you understanding. The world doesn't stop spinning because you're hurt. If you walk around wearing your pain like a badge, expecting sympathy, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle forever. The victim mindset is a trap disguised as comfort. It tells you that you're helpless, that it's not your fault. And for a moment, that feels good. You get to let go. You get to blame the world, your parents, your past. But while you're busy blaming, someone else is building. While you're crying about what's unfair, someone's out there training through the same storm you're using as an excuse. The difference isn't the pain, it's the perspective. One man uses pain as fuel. The other uses it as an excuse to quit. You don't get to cry about the fire and then complain that you're cold when you never stepped into it. Life isn't fair. And that's your advantage. This world doesn't reward the entitled. It rewards the relentless. It doesn't care how sad you are, how hard your past was, or how many times you fell. It cares about who gets up, who fights back, who adapts. You want fair. Stay soft. Stay ordinary. Stay where it's easy. But if you want to rise, If you want to be more than just another name, you have to stop demanding fairness and start demanding strength. The unfairness of life is where power is born, because once you realize no one's going to hand you anything, you become dangerous. You stop waiting. You stop wishing. You start building. You become the kind of person who doesn't care about odds, obstacles, or opinions. You create your own path, not because it's easy, but because you've decided weakness is no longer an option. When you accept that life is unfair, you unlock freedom. The freedom to act without permission, to dominate without apology, to rise without waiting for validation. The pain that was meant to break you becomes the reason you're unstoppable. And suddenly, why always me becomes try me. You don't run from the battle. You walk straight into it, because you've burned the victim in you to the ground and made room for the warrior who was always there. Have you ever noticed how the strongest people never ask for pity? How they never whine, never fold, never scream. Why me? It's because they've learned something you haven't yet. That the moment you stop asking why and start asking what now, your life begins to change. Weak men ask why. Strong men ask what now. The difference between the two isn't talent, it's mindset. One man sees pain and collapses. The other sees pain and calculates. While the weak man sits in the corner questioning the universe, the strong man steps forward and starts building. He doesn't have time to cry, to pause, to beg for sympathy, because he knows life doesn't reward the confused. It rewards the decisive. You don't get power by asking for answers. You get it by becoming the answer. Every time you ask, why is this happening to me, you give away your strength. You shift the focus from action to emotion. And emotion is not strategy. Emotion doesn't fix your bank account. Emotion doesn't push iron in the gym. Emotion doesn't build legacy, but action does. And action begins the moment you change the question. Instead of sitting in pain, drowning in confusion, you stand up and ask, what's the next move? That's the mindset that builds warriors. That's the shift that separates boys from men. You're not cursed. You're being carved. And that carving process is painful, but it's precise. There's a reason life keeps hitting you. It's not to destroy you. It's to shape you into something rare, into something solid, into something unshakable. God, the universe, whatever you believe in, it doesn't waste time on the weak. It invests pressure into potential. And if you're feeling that pressure, it means there's something inside you worth unlocking. But that version of you can't come to life while you're still wrapped in comfort. It needs fire. It needs loss. It needs chaos. That's the forge. That's where the softness gets stripped away. Where the lies you told yourself get burned out. Where the real you finally shows up. But here's the danger. Most people run during the carving. They escape. They blame. They distract themselves. They don't understand that discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the door. And the more life carves into you, the more space it creates for discipline, clarity, focus, strength. Every loss you've taken was a cut. Every betrayal, a slice. Every failure, another strike of the blade. But if you endure it, if you stay grounded, what's left after the carving is something most people will never become. A man forged by pain, not broken by it. So stop asking why. Stop chasing comfort. Stop interpreting pressure as punishment. You're not being crushed. You're being customized. Every hit you take is removing the weakness you couldn't see. Every hardship is chiseling away the parts of you that were never built to last. And when the carving is complete, you won't be asking why me anymore. You'll know exactly why it had to be you. Why is it that when some people face pressure, they collapse, and others evolve into something unstoppable? What if the pressure you're feeling isn't meant to break you, but to introduce you to the version of yourself you've never met? Struggle is the gym for unbreakable minds. You want strength. You want discipline. You want power. Then stop running from resistance. Start understanding that every ounce of pressure you feel right now is building mental muscle. Every setback, every failure, every betrayal, it's training. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Weak minds want peace without the price. They want clarity without the climb, but the unbreakable. They understand that growth demands pain, that without resistance, there's no transformation. Nobody gets strong by living soft. You don't develop courage by avoiding discomfort. You don't gain mental toughness by being babied through life. You get it through fire, through days when everything goes wrong and you still show up, through nights where sleep doesn't come, but discipline. You think success comes from comfort. No, it comes from dragging yourself through the mud, again and again, and still standing taller each time. Struggle isn't the enemy. It's your greatest ally. The more resistance you embrace, the more unstoppable you become. That's what separates the average from the elite. One avoids the weight. The other carries it like a badge of honor. The greater the pressure, the higher the calling. You're not under attack. You're under assignment. Life is squeezing you, not because you're weak, but because you're being prepared to rise. Diamonds aren't made in daylight. They're made underground, in heat, under pressure so intense that only the strongest materials survive. You want to shine, then embrace the process. The pressure you're feeling right now is a message. It's life saying you're being positioned for something bigger. The reason it hurts is because your current version can't carry the next level. That version has to be crushed, has to be restructured. Pressure exists to destroy your excuses, expose your laziness, and demand your evolution. That voice in your head that wants to quit, that's the old you. That's the version that lives off comfort, praise, and safety. The pressure is there to silence that voice and build a new one that doesn't fold, doesn't fear, and doesn't wait. Most people run from pressure because they think it's a sign they're on the wrong path. But pressure doesn't show up to stop you. It shows up to see who's serious. It's the entrance exam to a new level of life. And every time you survive it, you prove you're ready. You prove you're different. You prove you're built for more. So when pressure knocks on your door, you don't panic. You perform. You level up. You tighten your focus, increase your discipline, and walk straight into the storm. Because the man who can withstand the greatest pressure is the man who will be trusted with the highest purpose. Why do the strongest men always seem to suffer the most? Why do the greatest battles fall into the lap of the few who keep standing? Maybe it's not because they're unlucky. Maybe it's because they're being trusted with something others could never carry. If it's always you, it's because you're chosen, not cursed. The world doesn't throw fire at people who aren't a threat. It doesn't test the ones who are built to stay the same. It targets the ones it knows are different, the ones who carry something rare. So when life keeps breaking around you, when you keep getting the harder path, understand, it's not bad luck. It's a brutal compliment. You're being singled out for strength, for leadership, for impact. But the blessing won't arrive wrapped in comfort. It shows up in the form of chaos, because chaos builds what comfort never could. You're not cursed. You've been called. And with that calling comes fire, betrayal, silence, pressure, all of it. The world is testing you because it needs to know. Are you real? Are you built for this? Can you handle what's coming without folding like everyone else? And here's the truth. Most people can't accept. If you're not being challenged, you're not growing. If life has left you alone, you're not dangerous enough. The warrior's path is the painful path, but it's also the only path that leads to power. The universe ignores the comfortable and challenges the capable. If you're getting hit with setback after setback, it's because you've got more inside you that hasn't been activated yet. The universe doesn't waste storms on men who can't rise. It doesn't throw trials at those who have no potential. That pain you're feeling right now is not a sign to stop. It's confirmation that you're being trusted with pressure that average people couldn't handle for 5 seconds. And you think that's a curse? No, that's your edge. People pray for greatness, then cry when the training begins. They ask for strength, then run from the weight. They want legacy, but they can't even handle discomfort. The reason life keeps putting you in the fire is because someone somewhere knows that fire won't kill you. It'll reveal you. You've been chosen to lead, to carry, to dominate. But only if you can stop looking at pain as punishment and start recognizing it as the only language growth understands. The world doesn't gift you power for free. It rents it to the ones who survive the test. You want to be that man? Then stop crying about the challenge and start owning it. Every problem in your life right now is shaping your weapon. Every tough moment is sharpening your spirit. You are being made into something unbreakable. Not for show, not for likes, but because the world is watching to see if you can hold the weight of what you're about to become. Why is it that right before the breakthrough, everything falls apart? The people leave, the noise stops, the walls close in, and suddenly you're alone. But what if I told you that silence isn't a setback, it's strategy? You weren't abandoned. You were selected for separation. The storm doesn't come to drown you. It comes to crown you. Most people don't realize this. They think when life starts breaking down, when chaos hits every corner, it's because they're doing something wrong. But that's not how elevation works. A king is never crowned in peace. He's crowned in war. And the storm is the final test. It doesn't come to punish you. It comes to see if you're truly built for the level you've been praying for. You want to level up? Then you better be ready for the storm. Because the storm doesn't play favorites. It strips you down. It exposes everything. Your weaknesses, your lack of discipline, your emotional instability, your fake confidence. It pushes every button to see if you'll crack. That's how it knows if you're ready. Because if you can stay standing when the lightning hits, when the ground shakes, when everything familiar disappears, then you've proven yourself. Not to the world, but to the process. And only then does the crown come down. But here's what breaks most men. They don't recognize the storm for what it is. They start panicking, doubting, quitting. They think it's the end. But the storm was never there to destroy them. It was there to remove everything that doesn't belong in the next season of their life. The storm clears the stage for the real version of you to rise. And if you don't stand tall in it, you don't deserve what's waiting on the other side. You're being isolated because your future is too big for the crowd. Elevation requires separation, and that's something average people will never understand. You don't get power in the middle of noise. You get it in silence, in the isolation chamber, where no one's clapping, no one's validating, no one's watching. That's where warriors are built. Not in the spotlight, not in public, but in the dark, alone, broken, focused. When God or the universe or fate pulls people away from you, removes distractions, and shuts the doors you thought were meant for you, don't resist it. That's the cleanse. That's the removal process. Your new chapter can't be written with the old characters still in the room. Your next level requires a new circle, a new mindset, and a new version of you that doesn't chase attention, but commands respect. And that version is only revealed in isolation. Silence is not punishment. It's preparation. You're not being abandoned. You're being refined. The crowd was never meant to understand your vision. The noise was never meant to stay. And the throne you're walking toward, it's built for the kind of man who doesn't fear being alone, but uses that silence to sharpen his edge. Have you ever wondered why suffering keeps knocking on your door while others skate through life untouched? It's not bad luck, it's a mirror. Because suffering doesn't expose weakness, it exposes who you really are underneath the surface. Suffering reveals your identity, not your weakness. That's the truth most people are too scared to accept. See, when everything's going well, money flowing, people clapping, sun shining, you can fake it. You can wear the mask, you can act disciplined. But when the storm comes, when things start breaking down, when there's no one left to impress, that's when your real self walks into the room. That's when your core is revealed. And for most people, it's a rude awakening. They thought they were strong until life stripped the comfort away. And what was left? Doubt, fear, excuses. But for the chosen ones, the warriors, suffering doesn't expose their weakness. It exposes their dominance. Because even when life pushes them to the edge, they don't break, they build. Your identity isn't what you post. It's what you do when no one's watching. It's how you show up when the pain won't stop. It's what you choose in silence. Most people spend their lives trying to escape suffering. They numb it, avoid it, pray it away. But what they don't realize is suffering is the shortcut to self-awareness. It strips away every false identity you've been hiding behind. It forces you to meet yourself without the filters, without the noise, without the fake confidence. It demands truth. And once you face that truth, you either evolve or you repeat. No throne is earned without scars. You think greatness comes without damage, without pain, without nights you can't sleep, and days you want to quit? Never. Every man you admire, every leader, every legend, they didn't get there because they escaped the pain. They got there because they owned it. They let it carve them, mold them, sharpen them, and every scar they carry isn't a reminder of failure. It's proof they survived what would have destroyed 99% of people. Scars are not shame. They're credentials. You don't get to lead without bleeding. You don't get to speak truth if you've never lived through chaos. The man who hasn't suffered has no depth, no bite, no substance. He might talk big, but when pressure shows up, he folds. But the man who's walked through fire, he doesn't need to prove himself. The room shifts when he walks in, because his energy says one thing loud and clear: I've survived things you'll never understand. Every moment of pain you've experienced, every tear, every hit, every betrayal, it wasn't random. It was writing your story, building your edge, preparing your leadership. If you carry scars, you carry proof. Proof that you didn't quit, that you didn't hide, that you didn't beg. You rose, you adapted, you bled, and kept walking. That's the cost of the crown. That's what makes you different. That's what separates warriors from watchers. And that's exactly why it had to be you. What if everything falling apart in your life isn't a breakdown, but a setup? What if the chaos, the silence, the pressure is not life punishing you, but positioning you for something only a few men ever reach? You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Most people can't grasp this because they're too focused on the surface. They see failure, betrayal, loss, and assume it's the universe trying to break them. But that mindset is the reason they stay stuck. Life doesn't waste pain on people. It doesn't plan to use. When you're being hit from every side, when everything you built seems to crumble, it's not because you're cursed. It's because you're being shifted into a higher dimension. The life you were living no longer matches the man you're becoming. So the old structure has to collapse. And yeah, that collapse is loud. It's chaotic. It's painful. But it's strategic. That storm you hate, that's your launch pad. See, real positioning never feels comfortable. It feels like isolation. It feels like betrayal. It feels like your plans are failing. But in reality, what's happening is divine alignment. Your purpose is too big to fit inside your old patterns, your old circle, your old mindset. So life strips them away, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Because if you're going to carry power, you need space. If you're going to step into greatness, you need to be light. No dead weight, no distractions, no fake connections. And that's why your positioning feels like punishment. Because you're still holding on to things that can't survive your next chapter. Stop complaining about the fire. Become the fire. That's the mindset shift that flips everything. You weren't born to be reactive. You weren't made to just get through life. You were built to dominate it. But domination doesn't come from hoping. It comes from becoming. You want to be untouchable. Then you need to embrace the heat. Stop trying to escape the storm and learn how to command inside it. Pressure isn't your enemy. It's your environment. It's the exact fuel needed to ignite your next level. But only if you stop resisting it. Becoming the fire means you no longer look for comfort. You create intensity. You stop waiting for the challenge. You chase it. You train in silence. You prepare in private. You build your edge, not when it's easy, but when it's hell. That version of you, the one who doesn't break, doesn't flinch, doesn't bow to pain, that's the real you. But he doesn't show up until you stop acting like life owes you ease. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to be soft. You're here to become undeniable. And the only way you become that is by deciding, right now, that you'll stop apologizing for your pain and start weaponizing it. The world doesn't fear a man who wants power. It fears the one who's become it. You don't survive the fire. You turn into it. That's the shift. That's the edge. That's the reason you're still standing when others folded.